Hey guys, welcome to another React Native tutorial. In this video, I will show you how to create this Among Us swipe card task in React Native. So I hope you all are familiar with this task in Among Us game. So here you have a card and you need to swipe it to get the task completed. But in this tutorial, I will show you how to handle all those possible conditions where like if you swipe the card too fast, it gives you an error. If you swipe the card too slow, it gives you an error. If you don't complete the entire swipe, if you leave it in middle, it gives you a bad read. So yeah, so I will show you how to handle all those things. Oh wait, let me just complete this.
Few moments later.
Yeah, okay, so I will show you how to do this in React Native using the new React Native reanimated version 2 library. Without wasting any further time, let's get started. So here I have a pretty basic React Native setup. Before moving forward, we need to install a couple of dependencies. The list is shown on the screen. So the first one is the React Native gesture handler for handling the gesture. The second one is the React Native reanimated, and the third one is React Native sound. It's recommended that you follow the documentation provided by the library so that you install the dependencies correctly. We will be building this app in the landscape mode. So if you can see, like I will be working on the Android. So for the landscape mode, you need to modify the Android manifest.xml file and add Android screen orientation landscape so that the app starts in the landscape mode. Apart from that, I have a couple of assets like the font, the sound files, some images for the background, card machine, light, swipe card, and wallet. Yeah, so this is pretty much the assets we will be using for this tutorial. Yeah, so let's get started. So let me just finish with writing the basic UI structure so that we can focus more on writing the game logic.
One eternity later.
So I have completed writing the basic UI. You can find the code in the GitHub repo mentioned in the description. So yeah, so here is our card machine. This is our card, swipe card. So what we'll be doing is like we need to make the card swipeable in this direction, which is the horizontal axis. So let's complete with that. So what we need is like we can use the pen gesture handler from the React Native gesture handler. Pen gesture handler. So we need to wrap the handler with the card only. So uh, this is our swipe card. So pen gesture handler. Yeah, so the pen gesture handler wants animatable component. So the image is not animatable by default, so we need to use the image components from the React Native reanimated. So let's do import animated from React Native reanimated. Let's change this to animated.image. So the pen gesture receives a prop called on gesture event, which receives a function. Let's call it gesture handler. Let's define the function gesture handler. So this receives a function, but the React Native reanimated comes with a hook called use animated gesture handler. So we can directly use this. So this is the beauty of version 2 of React Native reanimated, which receives an object, and here are all the various gesture events like on active, on cancel, on end, on start, on finish. So let's try out the on start. Let's do a basic console log. Gesture started. So yeah, let's reload the app. Check the log. So whenever I try to do a gesture on this, like dragging it, it says gesture started. It means our setup is correct and it's working. So we need to translate the card whenever we are moving with our gesture. So we can use the on active event, gives an event object. So the value of the translation can be get from the event.translatex, but we need to map that value to this image component. So what we can do is we can create a shared value, use shared value. Yeah, so we can import it from React Native Reanimated, and let's set it to 0. And we can directly change the value x dot value equals to translation x, but this won't move this because we need to apply those animated value in terms of the transformation. So we can use the animated style from the React Native Reanimated. So use animated style. Let's create a new object, const animated styles, the name of his card, use animated style. It returns an object, a transform, translate x dot value. Yeah, so what we are doing here is like we are modifying the value of x from the gesture by taking the translation x and then applying it to the style. Let's add this style to this card. So make it an array, animated styles dot card. Let's give it a try. I hope it works. Yeah, so as you can see, it's working, but whenever I drag from here, like it's behaving weirdly. So the idea is like whenever I leave the gesture, it should go to its initial position. So that's easy. We can just do the on end. We don't need to use the event. Let's directly set x dot value to 0. Yeah, so let's refresh. Yeah, so whenever I leave this, it's going to 0. But if you see, like this is not smooth, like we want this to go from here to here like in an animated way. Yeah, that's easy. Like we can directly use the width timing from the reanimated and set the value to 0 so that it extrapolates over that. Let me leave this. Yeah, if you can see, it's coming back. So now let's work on the next thing, that is whenever I'm dragging the card towards the right, it shouldn't come towards the left. That means if I am here and if I try to drag it towards left, it should cancel the gesture and the card should translate to its initial position. So let's write the logic for that. So for this, we need to store its previous value. So here we can use the context object, which is the second argument of the gesture event. So we can store the value directly here. Like we can save the value context.x equals to event dot translation x. Yeah, and we can directly compare, like if the event dot translation x is greater than or equal to x dot value, then only modify this value, else, let me just wrap it inside this, else set the x dot value with timing to 0 and cancel animation. We are importing cancel animation from the reanimated as well, and cancel animation. Let's give it a try. Reload the app. Whenever I'm here, let me try to drag it towards left, and yeah, it's not working, and whenever I leave it, it goes back. Now let's write the logic for calculating the speed of the swipe event. Why we need this? So that we can check whether the speed of the swipe is in the acceptable bounds. Otherwise, the swiping is too fast or too slow. So how we can approach this is by calculating the velocity for each swipe and then adding it and taking the average so that we get the average velocity of the swipe. So let's try to create a container so that we can store all those velocities. Let's call it speed data, use shared value, an empty array. So how we can extract the velocities from this event object? So let's create a separate function, add a speed data. It should accept that velocity, speed data dot value. Let's create new array, speed data dot value, and let's add the velocity this end, and we are making it immutable so we don't accidentally override the current array. So let's call this function here, event dot velocity x. It will take the velocity. If it's in the acceptable round, then it adds to that, but it shouldn't work. Let me tell you why. Yeah, let's give it a try. Yeah, it's saying try to synchronously call function this on different thread. So why we are getting this error? This is because this thing is running on the UI thread, which is in the Java side in the Android, and our computation is in the this function is in JavaScript context. So we need to tell the executor to run this thing in the JavaScript thread. So how we can do this is by using the run on JS, which we are importing from the React Native Reanimator. So let's call this function on the run on JS. Let's save it, reload it. It's working without error. So let's check whether we are getting those value and adding it into the speed data array. So when our gesture end, let's console log the speed data dot value and length. So let's console log the length of the array, and let me swipe it too slow. Yeah, so now we are getting 112. Let me swipe it too fast. Oh, so you see, like when we swipe multiple times, it's just adding those value. So what we need to do is, like, whenever our swiping ends, we need to also reset the speed data array. So speed data dot value equals to an empty array. So let's give it a try. 27, 10. Let me swipe too slow. Yeah, so we are getting 71 values. Let me swipe too fast. Yeah, now we are getting 58 to, yeah, now 6. So yeah, so what we are doing is, like, we are adding all those values to this array, and whenever we are ending the gesture, we are resetting it so that it shouldn't get overwritten from the next thing. We can write a function to calculate the average velocity for that. Const average speed. It shouldn't take any argument. Let's create a total variable to store the total for all the speeds, and we can use a for of loop for const velocity of speed data dot value, and we can do total plus equals to velocity, and in the end we can just calculate the average speed equals to total by speed data dot value dot length, and just console log this average speed, and let's call this in the end. So instead of this, we can call it average speed, and similarly, like, we want this to execute on the JavaScript thread, so we can do run on JS. So let's give it a try. Let me open the console and let me just try to swipe this. Yeah, it's giving 552. Let me try to swipe it too fast. It's 1394. Let me try to slow. Yeah, so it's working. So now let's return this value, return average speed, and we can create another function like const is swipe accepted, which checks whether this the speed the average velocity is in the required bound. So what we can do is, like, const average speed equals to so we can do average equals to average speed, which returns that average speed from this function. And let's check, like, if average is greater than 1000 and average is less than 1600, then let's console log accepted. Similarly, we can do else if average is less than equal to 1000, then we can do console log too slow, Else, if the speed is greater than 1600, then we can do console log too fast. And instead of calling average speed, let's call this here. So let's reload the app, open the console. It's saying too slow. So let me try to swipe too fast. It's saying too fast. Let me swipe in average. Yeah, it's saying accepted. Yeah. Now let's map these console logs to this screen. So like whenever the speed is too low, too high, or it's accepted, it should show on the text on the screen. So what we can do, we can create a basic state, swipe message set, swipe message use state from the React. So it's imported, and let's wait, please swipe card. And in the bottom where we have this, let me just copy it. So where we have this hello, let me just paste this with this. Yeah, so the initial is saying please swipe card, and then we can do, if it's accepted, then instead of this we can do set swipe message accepted, thank you. Let's copy the same. Too slow, try again. Instead of too slow, it's too fast. So let's give it a try. It's saying too fast. Let me swipe too slow. Swipe with, yeah, it's saying accepted. So now let's map these messages with the sound, so the user knows like audio played whenever when there is error and when there is accepted or in different states. For this we need to use the React Native sound library. What I'm thinking of doing is, like, instead of writing the logic here, it becomes a little bit messy. Let's write the custom React hook for that. For this, let's start by creating a separate file. And the hooks, let's call it use audio.js. Just put this here. We need to import use state, no, state, and use effect from React. And let me import the sound from React Native sound. So let's create the use audio function, which receives the file name of the audio file which we want to play. So it just returns an object for that audio file, and we can call the methods of play, stop, init sound object, and set init sound object. And we can do use state and set it to null as the initial value. Then we can do use effect, and let's give it a dependency array of file name and set init object, call the constructor with the file name, and in the end let's return the initialize sound object. Finally, we need to export this, export default use audio. Now let's use this hook to play some sound effects. So import use audio from /hook/use audio. So I've already copied the files in the Android folder. You can find the documentation for that in the React Native sound library. So const card underscore denied sound equals to use audio, and then we need to give the name of the file, that is card underscore denied.mp3. Similarly for this, for the accepted sound, it's card underscore accepted.mp3. Now let's map this sound files on those events. So when the card is accepted, you need to play card accepted sound dot play. When the card is denied, card underscore denied sound dot play. Copy this, paste here for the same. Now let's reload the app. Let me try to swipe the card too fast, and I hope you can hear the sound. Let me try to swipe it too slow. It's playing for that and showing the message. Let me try to swipe so that it accepts the speed. So it's almost, now we have successfully mapped the sound effects with the different conditions for the quiet swipe events. So now we are almost done. The last thing left is to map these lights, the red and green lights, based on the different events which we have calculated earlier. So what we can do is like we can change the opacity of the lights, and whenever the light is on we set the opacity to 1, else we set it to around 0.3 or something. So for this, let's create another state. Let's set it indicator light, and we are creating a basic React state, so we need to add a method to set it. Use state, and let's set it to 0 by default. So what we are doing, let me add a comment for this. 0 means no light, 1 means red, 2 means green. So what we can do is like we can set the value based upon these events. So whenever it's accepted, let's set it to 2. Whenever it's rejected, let's set it to 1. And what else we can do is like we can create a dynamic style. Const, let's call it dynamic styles. Red light, set this to and when the opacity, when the indicator light is equal to 1, then we set the opacity 1, else we set the opacity to 0.3. Similarly for the green light, let's copy this, paste here, and for the green the indicator light is 2. Now let's map these styles to the images we have over here. So we can do a dynamic styles dot red light, similarly dynamic styles dot green light. Now let's check whether this works or not. That's error, and it's accepted screen. Yeah, so yeah, I think now we are pretty much done. So you can find the complete code in the link in the description below, and please hit the like button if you like the video, and please consider subscribing.